Take Care of Your Body by Rye, with your host, Rylan Rosano. Everyone has a story. Whatever yours may be, always be kind. Stay tuned in to see what's next.
I hope you're smiling because it's me, Rye. Everybody has a story, and today you're going to hear a little bit of mine.
After a long year, 10 medical specialists, $900,000 in lab work, and a handful of diagnostic imaging, you were diagnosed with autonomic dysfunction, or in simpler terms, dysautonomia. Explain what this is.
Absolutely. So dysautonomia is a dysfunction of the nerves that regulate non-voluntary body functions, such as heart rate, blood pressure, sweating, GI manifestations, and glucose regulation, things that we never think of our body doing.
70 million people suffer from dysautonomia. How does it affect your daily life?
You never know what you're going to get. So today I could feel somewhat okay, and tomorrow could be one of the worst symptom days ever. It's a management type thing, and I've worked alongside my medical team and my mom to figure out what works best for me, and I'm still in the process of figuring out how I can manage this.
What symptoms do you experience, and how do they impact your physical and mental health?
The symptoms I experience kind of range differently, from various GI issues to lightheadedness and dizziness upon standing, as well as changing positions. So when I'm sitting or laying down, I feel relief. The thing about it is it's a positional thing. So you can kind of think about it as a water bottle. When a water bottle stands up, it's okay. But if, let's say, maybe the water bottle was laying down, the blood volume is distributed equally. However, if the water bottle raises quickly from the laying down position, it's going to shake up, and that is what occurs in my body, causing me to feel faint, dizzy, lightheaded.
Are there any other symptoms that you have daily?
Yes, absolutely. So I experience random moments of hypoglycemia, and if you don't know what hypoglycemia is, in simpler terms, it's low blood sugar. I experience fatigue, specifically in my legs. Sometimes I experience exercise intolerance. However, thankfully that hasn't been occurring because I've been increasing my salt intake. So I take about 10 grams of salt every day, and I make sure I stay hydrated. I also experience acid reflux, GI symptoms that can cause my stomach to just feel not hungry, and it kind of makes my whole day disqueued. So those are some of the symptoms that I experience, as well as frequent migraine headaches that are not typical. We call them orthostatic headaches. It's different versus the normal migraine because it is a part of the autonomic nervous system.
And how do you work through that on different days?
Well, like I kind of said, every day is different. So some days I notice that if I didn't get enough sleep, I feel worse versus if I get the normal 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I exercise at least for 30 minutes a day. I've started to drink liquid IVs, make sure I'm hydrating enough. I drink a gallon of water every day. And I kind of push myself. I mean, it's all about listening to your body, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to just say, you know what, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go on through my day. And something that has happened throughout the last few months is I have some kids that look up to me and they say that I inspire them, and they'll knock on my door and we'll be like, hey, Rylan, and they'll want to hang out. And I call them my butterfly squad, and they'll push me to keep going. And I've noticed that when I keep moving, it makes me feel so much better. So it's like these kids have kind of changed my life in a way, and it truly has impacted me in such a positive way just by knowing them and hanging out with them, because they don't know it, but I know it, that they are helping me physically as well as mentally.
So what's the misconception or stigma about dysautonomia that you want to address?
There's a lot of them, but I think one thing that a lot of people would look at is they would see me and they would think I'm completely fine. I'm a yoga instructor. I'm in really good shape. I'm very tall. You would see a girl who has great skin. She's hydrated. She's doing okay from the outside, but you never know what someone is going through on the inside, and invisible illness is real. I grew up knowing that. My mom has type 1 diabetes, and she taught me and my sister from a very young age, you never know what someone's going through. Just be kind, because there's various different types of chronic illness we don't see. You can't see that someone's blood pressure is low. You can't see that someone's heart rate is high. You can't see what someone's blood sugar is unless they have the Dexcom app or the insulin pump to show you. But in my case, I don't have anything to show you from the outside about how my body is feeling. But that doesn't mean that I'm not sick. That doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong with me or that I don't have a chronic illness. So I think the biggest stigma that people do not believe in is that invisible illnesses are a thing. But they absolutely are a thing. And another stigma that I do want to address is the fact that a lot of people with dysautonomia go to the doctor and they explain their symptoms, and they're kind of pushed down a road of various doctors, because it starts out by one doctor saying, oh, it's all in your head. You need a psychiatrist. It's just your anxiety. You're making it up. And I think that's very invalidating to the patient, because I've been told that by some physicians, and it makes the patient feel like they're crazy, like they're not being listened to. And that is something about dysautonomia that I want people to know.
So thanks for calling me out there. And what I'd like to say is we do not get any royalties from the CGM sensor, and there is other CGM sensors out there. Rylan just particularly called the one that she currently wears out. Has dysautonomia changed your perspective on life or influenced your relationship with others?
Absolutely. It definitely has changed my perspective on life, because I've kind of got a new gratitude for myself. I've gained a massive amount of self-respect for myself, and I've learned the ability of truly taking care of my body. That is just a saying I've always loved, but I think I've always preached it to others, and over the last year I've learned that I have to take care of my body as well. I've definitely have learned about my relationship with exercise as well as food and how that's changed. I now have to salt my meals more, and I now have to make sure that I at least, exercise for 30 minutes. And something that at the beginning of this journey, I would catch myself doing is comparing myself to the version I was 2 years ago, when I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would do yoga, and then I would do 4 to 5 yoga classes in the same day to teach others yoga. And I catch myself saying, wow, how did I have that much energy? How did I do all these things in a day? Well, instead of, getting caught up in the past, I've learned to give myself grace and understand that I'm not that version of myself anymore, but maybe one day I can be. I just need to kind of take time and sit with the version I am now, give her grace, and understand that every day is going to be different. And that I'm not my problems. I'm not dysautonomia, and you're not whatever you're going through. And that is something that I definitely wanted to touch on here. We are not our issues. We are just people that have them. But we are more than whatever they are.
So what you're saying is that you can push through, and with management, what do you think was the difference with you finding a diagnosis as quickly as you did versus the people that it takes 5 or 10 years to figure it out?
I think it's given me more time to do research. I've had the ability to kind of get the management aspects quickly versus having to wait so long for a diagnosis that I didn't know what I had to figure out what was going on. But thankfully, I've had time to do research. I've had time to, get my medical team really lined up in the way that I needed to get the help I needed. So not only was I able to develop new management skills, like drinking a lot of water. I mean, I was before, but with dysautonomia and the different forms of dysautonomia, you need a certain amount of water. I've learned that I need to increase my salt intake. I need to make sure I'm sleeping well. I'm getting enough exercise. Just learning about these certain things throughout this process has given me the ability to feel better in the last year versus someone else that maybe they're still seeing the second doctor and I've already seen all the doctors that I needed to see to get a diagnosis. So I'm very, very grateful to have gotten a diagnosis within the last year, because I think that if I wouldn't have, I would be feeling way worse.
What's the one thing you want all of your listeners to know that about autonomic dysfunction, dysautonomia, POTS? There's a handful of different words or medical terms to describe basically one autonomic, your nervous system malfunctioning. Some people have tachycardia, some people have bradycardia, some people, which is where the POTS comes into. But dysautonomia, what's the one thing you want everybody to know?
There's a lot of them, but I'm going to try and fit it into one. I think I want everyone to know that it's crucial to educate ourselves and others about this condition, that it's not in our heads. Invisible illness is real. And if you know someone with an invisible illness, believe them when they're telling you how they feel. I also want them to know that listening is an important thing. If you have a friend that is suffering from dysautonomia, do the research, lend your ear, give them some of your time. I think, if you are struggling with a chronic illness, your support system is one of the best things you can have. And if you have a good support system, I think it helps you completely in the process of managing and living with your chronic illness. And another thing that I want to add, I know that's definitely not one thing, but chronic illness isn't linear. It's not the same for everybody, but we all have one thing in common, which is we all know what chronic pain is like, what it's like not to feel well and have to live our lives with something. Be kind. You never know what someone is going through, and maybe you're listening to this and you don't have a chronic illness. But even if you don't have a chronic illness, just be kind, because everybody has a story, and you never know what is going on in someone's life unless they share it with you. So be kind. That is all I ask.
So the reason you decided now to reach out to your listeners and tell them?
The reason that I've decided to come on here and talk about my journey really for the first time is because next week I will have the Dysautonomia Project come on and talk a little bit about what they do to help people like me struggling with this condition. And it's all about spreading awareness for a very common condition that not a lot of people know about. And the thing about dysautonomia is a lot of people suffer with it, but they don't even know that they have it because of the time period and the algorithm it takes for doctors to pass you along, because they don't know the symptoms are so complex. They don't know that it's one condition.
So moving forward, we're going to hear from the Dysautonomia Project. What are your thoughts as a whole for your podcast? What are your planning out a little bit further? Give some of your listeners some ideas. Maybe they have some ideas that they'd like to send in, who they'd like to hear from medical wise.
Absolutely. As you all have been listening, I've had various professionals from medical to mental talk about how they take care of their body. But moving forward, we will have a cardiologist that is actually my cardiologist, so he can touch on heart health and even my journey a little bit. My endocrinologist, that is my mom's mentor, as well as one of the most amazing people I know. She will come on and talk about different endocrine issues, her experience with me, and her experience with so many others. I will have a pulmonologist come on and talk about the lungs and the importance of taking care of your lung health. I will have a GI come on and talk about gut health, gastrointestinal issues that people know about, some that not many people know about, how it can even impact dysautonomia, to take it on a broader perspective. I will have an allergist come on and talk about allergies, and since we're in spring, how our allergies can be debilitating, what we can do about them, and how it can impact our overall health, and ways we can take care of our body. I will have my Aunt Susan, who's my godmom, come on and talk a little bit about what she does. She's an OBGYN, and she's amazing. I spoil her every week with desserts, and those are not very nutritious, but everything else I make is nutritious. And she will come on and talk about women's health, OBGYN issues, her experience delivering babies and dealing with different moms in different situations, and a little bit about that. I will have a dermatologist come on and talk about skincare and skin health for the summer. And if you have anyone that you want to talk on my podcast, reach out to me at recipesbyry@gmail.com, because I have a lot in store for this podcast. I'm just a girl trying to impact the world with her story and the story of others. And I also can't wait to get some of my friends on here to talk a little bit about their journeys with whatever they've been through in their life. Because at the end of the day, we can always learn something from one another.
So that's Dysautonomia with Rye.
And I wanted to say thank you, Mom, for being the voice of Take Care of Your Body by Rye. She is amazing. I truly look up to my mom. She's sitting right here, so she's probably going to start crying right now. We should, at this point, buy stocking Kleenex. But I truly love my mom, and I couldn't have even been a part of this journey without her, because she has changed my life throughout my years of living, and even throughout this journey of struggling with dysautonomia. She's been one of my biggest advocates, even though I'm probably one of my biggest advocates. She's been my cheerleader, my support system, and just an amazing person. She's my super mom, and I love her so much, and I'm so grateful that I have the best mom ever.
I'm the voice behind Take Care of Your Body with Rye, and the mom.
So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you got a little bit of an understanding about dysautonomia. I've definitely thrown it out a little bit on my socials, but I've never really sat down, talked a little bit about my journey. I took a very long story and I made it long story short. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I appreciate you. I'm so happy you're here. And remember, you are not your issues. Your problems do not define you. You are just someone who has them. Be kind, and as always, take care of your body, and with love, Rye. Thanks for listening to this new episode of the Take Care of Your Body by Rye podcast, where I shed a light on my condition, dysautonomia, and what I go through every day, and what many others go through every day living with this condition. There are 15 types of dysautonomia. If you or someone you know feels like they are suffering from a symptom I mentioned, reach out to your doctor, or specifically a neurologist, as well as the Dysautonomia Project. There are various books you can read to learn a little bit more about dysautonomia. Thank you to my mom for making this episode a little bit easier. And just know, you are never alone.